He humiliated me, stole my father's company, and made me his assistant, but he forgot one thing: I was the one Dad trusted to rebuild it when it all came crashing down. My name is Ryan Blake. I'm 38. Mechanical engineer by training, MBA by necessity, and once upon a time, heir apparent to my father's empire. Blake Industries started in a leaky garage with nothing but a drill press and my father's busted back. I was 14 when he handed me a wrench and told me, "Build with your hands or someone else will build your life for you." So I built. Every weekend. Every summer. While other kids were at parties or chasing girls, I was learning tolerances and stress points and supply chains. I was loyal. Liam, my younger brother, was the opposite. Handsome. Charming. Slippery. He never liked sweat. He liked suits. He never touched the shop floor unless there was a camera or a ribbon cutting. And yet, my father adored him. Dad got sick 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Brutal. Fast. I left my wife and kids back in Chicago and moved into the guest room at Dad's estate to care for him. Liam? He flew in for a day. Brought sushi. Hugged Dad for a photo. Then left. That year, I handled everything. The chemo appointments. The wool drafts. The emergency board meetings. The payroll when the CFO had a breakdown. Liam sent emojis. In the final month, Dad made his intentions crystal clear. "Ryan, the company's yours. You earned it. Liam. He's not built for this." He even had the board prepped. I watched him sign the transition plan. Then one night, I went out for groceries. When I came back, the papers were gone from the safe. The transition file on the company server? Deleted. Dad was confused. His meds were heavy. He said Liam came by just to talk. 3 days later, my father died. The funeral was grotesque. Liam made a speech about how Dad always believed in us both. He posed for pictures with the casket. He shook hands with board members and pulled the lawyer aside for a private word. I was busy folding programs. I didn't even notice when he had the will updated behind my back. At the next board meeting, I showed up wearing the same navy suit I'd worn when Dad took me to my first investor pitch. Liam showed up 20 minutes late with a custom Rolex and a new girlfriend in stilettos. He handed out coffee. He smiled. And then he dropped the bomb. "As per our late father's amended estate directive, I will assume the position of CEO, effective immediately." I stood up. "That's a lie. He named me." Liam didn't even look at me. "Ryan will continue to support the company as executive assistant to the CEO." There was silence. Then polite clapping. I wasn't promoted. I was erased. The office they gave me was a broom closet with a broken HVAC. Liam made me schedule his golf meetings and pick up his dry cleaning. He called me buddy in front of clients. He even made me book a hotel for his engagement weekend, with my ex-girlfriend. I didn't say a word. Not yet. Because I remembered what Dad told me. Build with your hands or someone else will build your life for you. So I started building. Not a machine. Not a product. But a reckoning. The day after we buried Dad, Liam filed documents with the state business registrar. By the time I opened my inbox, he'd already changed the company's leadership on every platform. Emails no longer addressed me as VP of Operations. My corporate card was deactivated. My access to the finance dashboard was revoked. Even the company LinkedIn page now listed Liam as CEO and visionary leader. No one had voted. No one had questioned it. Why? Because Liam didn't just steal the title. He stole the narrative. He hosted a company-wide Zoom meeting, one I wasn't even invited to, where he gave a rousing speech about the next era of Blake Industries. He played an old voicemail from Dad, edited to sound like an endorsement. He said, "Ryan stepping back to focus on family." Family? My kids barely recognized me after I spent 2 years keeping the company afloat. Now I was being erased from it, in front of hundreds of people who once reported to me. Worse, no one objected. The board didn't resist either. They were mostly old men with equity and no backbone. Liam promised them stock options, quarterly bonuses, and aggressive expansion. I had warned them for years about overleveraging. They didn't care. He was glossy, polished, and knew how to say words like synergy and disruption without vomiting. I was practical, grounded, and carried grease under my fingernails from the shop floor. In Liam's hands, the company became a brand. In mine, it was still a family. But Liam wasn't content with just a takeover. He wanted humiliation. He moved my office from the second floor to the basement. He accidentally forwarded HR policies to staff announcing my new role as his assistant. He even held a meeting titled, "Managing Legacy Employees, A Fresh Start," and made me take notes. That was the moment I realized something deep, something ugly. Liam didn't just want to win. He wanted to break me. Then came the final blow. At the company's annual gala, the one Dad and I started 12 years ago to honor factory workers, Liam took the stage in a velvet tuxedo. He thanked Dad. He thanked the team. He thanked me for my long service and continued loyalty as part of his support staff. People clapped. Some even stood. My throat burned. My palms bled from how hard I clenched them. He'd taken my life's work and turned me into a mascot. But as he raised his champagne glass, I locked eyes with him. And I smiled. Because I finally understood. He thought the war was over. But the war hadn't even begun. They say it takes years to build respect, and seconds to lose it. Liam found a way to make it happen in meetings. One minute I was the guy people came to for approvals, insights, decisions. The next, I was passing out coffees and jotting down action points. People avoided eye contact. No one called me sir anymore, just Ryan, like I was an intern who overstayed his welcome. Some even whispered behind my back. A few were kind, in the condescending way you talk to someone after a funeral. Worse still? Liam enjoyed it. He once called me into a 7 a.m. meeting with investors from Tokyo. They were the kind Dad had always flown out personally to impress. When I walked in, Liam was already seated. He didn't look up. Just snapped his fingers and said, "Coffee. Now." I hesitated. He turned slowly, smiled that plastic smile, and added, "And make it Japanese blend. We're professionals here, right?" The Tokyo execs laughed awkwardly. I left the room, boiled with shame, and returned with the coffee. Because if I stormed out, the game ended. And I wasn't done playing. The next day, he gave me a schedule labeled Personal Errands, CEO. It included things like pick up dry cleaning, confirm reservations for the lake house, buy anniversary gift for Madison, his fiancée, my ex, walk the dog. That last one? He didn't have a dog. He just wanted to see how far I'd go. And I went. Because humiliation is temporary. Revenge? Revenge is forever. There was one moment that nearly broke me. I was organizing company archives, another executive assistant task, when I found a folder labeled 2015, Expansion Strategy. My notes. My blueprints. My late-night scribbles with Dad. The plan that helped us double revenue in 4 years. And on the cover? Liam Blake, Visionary Expansion Model. He stole everything. Even my memories. I sat there in the supply closet, surrounded by papers with his name and my work, and something inside me cracked open. Not sadness. Not bitterness. Focus. That was the moment I started writing my own plan. I didn't want his job anymore. I didn't want the same chair, the same desk, or even the title of CEO. I wanted him ruined. Not just fired, forgotten. Not just exposed, erased. Because Liam hadn't just taken my company. He'd made me small in the place I helped build with my own blood. And now? It was time to rebuild, not myself. But his downfall. Some say the worst betrayals come from strangers. They're wrong. The worst come from people you helped create. Liam didn't just want me gone. He wanted me destroyed. He wasn't satisfied being in Dad's chair, he needed me groveling beneath it. And I let him. Until the day he went too far. It started with a corporate retreat, Blake Industries' annual strategy summit. Usually held at Dad's lakeside cabin, it was the one event where factory supervisors, engineers, and leadership mixed as equals. It used to be my idea. But this year, Liam rebranded it. Vision Weekend with Liam Blake. And instead of the cabin, he flew everyone to a luxury golf resort in Arizona. I wasn't invited as a leader, I was assigned as a staff member. The email was clear. Ryan, please assist with valet coordination and guest check-in. Bring your own black shoes. My throat closed when I read it. I built the platform these events stood on. Now I was going to shine the shoes of men who once worked for me. At the resort, Liam handed me a headset and a clipboard. Don't screw up, he said, in front of 3 interns. I nodded. Then he pulled me aside. Also, don't talk to anyone about company direction. You're not here as a Blake. You're here as staff. He said it with a grin, but I felt the knife. And then he twisted it. Oh, and one more thing. Madison's flying in. Don't be weird. Madison. My ex. The woman I almost proposed to before Liam slept with her behind my back, gaslit her into thinking I was too controlling, then paraded her around like a trophy. They were engaged now. Of course they were. I greeted guests while Liam stood under chandeliers, giving toasts about honoring our legacy, the one I bled for. Then came the closing gala. Open bar. Live jazz. Floor-to-ceiling portraits of Dad. And a surprise guest appearance. Liam stood on stage, champagne in hand. This year, I'm introducing a new role, inspired by someone close to me. A role for people who've given everything and asked for nothing in return. He turned to me. Please welcome our new Chief Heritage Officer. My big brother, Ryan. Applause. Laughter. But it was mockery wrapped in flattery. I took the mic. Everyone stared. I looked at Liam. He winked. I said only this. Thank you, Liam. For everything you've taught me. Especially about loyalty. Then I handed the mic back, smiled, and walked off the stage, out of the ballroom, out of the resort. Back to my rental car. Back to my spreadsheet. Back to my plan. Because what no one knew, not Liam, not the board, not Madison, was this. I had copies of the original will. I had emails. I had proof. But more importantly, I had time. And now? I had nothing left to lose. Dash. The thing about planting revenge? You don't do it in rage. You do it in silence. While they laugh, you dig. While they toast, you plan. And while they sleep, you water the roots. The day after the retreat, I rented a small studio apartment, 27 minutes from Blake Industries HQ. No more lake house. No more company car. No more heritage. I kept my badge. I kept my silence. And I started my war. Step 1, reclaim the blueprint. I spent nights re-downloading old company documents I'd drafted, operations manuals, contracts, vendor lists, SOPs. I built most of them under Dad's direct supervision. They were mine. And I had the originals, with metadata proving it. Each file I archived, I labeled weapon. By the end of the week, I had 47 weapons. Step 2. Build the army. I started reaching out to the people Liam had burned. You'd be surprised how many enemies a fake king makes when he stops pretending to care. One by one, I met with them. Jenna, our lead engineer, fired after she pushed back on a safety shortcut. Miguel, former logistics head, forced out after uncovering shipment fraud. Evelyn, Dad's longest-serving executive assistant, dismissed for cost-cutting after Liam leaked personal messages between her and Dad. I didn't promise them jobs. I promised justice. They didn't ask for proof. They already knew who Liam was. Step 3. Follow the money. Liam was arrogant, but not stupid. He funneled company funds through a series of shell contractors, consultants with no actual output. But one of those shell companies was registered under Madison's maiden name. And the address? A P.O. box I used to share with her when we first moved in together. Amateur move, Liam. I quietly hired a forensic accountant. I gave her only one instruction. I don't want enough to hurt him. I want enough to bury him. Step 4. The press. Liam worshipped perception. Every week he fed fluff pieces to local business journals. Young visionary leads Blake Industries into future. From startup to empire, the Blake brothers' journey. But now, I had a contact, an investigative journalist I once helped pro bono during a warehouse fire insurance dispute. She owed me a favor. She said, "Give me blood, and I'll give you headlines." I replied, "You'll need a mop." Step 5. Wait. That was the hardest part. Playing the role of the quiet assistant. Attending meetings with a notepad while Liam took credit for plans he didn't understand. Scheduling his engagement party. Booking his yacht trip. Carrying his dry cleaning, literally carrying his suits while knowing I held the knife behind my back. But the longer he flaunted, the sharper the blade got. And when the day came to strike, it wouldn't just ruin him. It would erase him. From headlines. From contracts. From our father's name. Because Liam didn't just forget who built this company. He forgot one truth. The quiet brother is always the most dangerous. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes, it's better served at the shareholders' meeting, with a side of public humiliation. It started with a whisper. A small note left on the desk of Harold Keyes, our oldest board member and one of Dad's closest allies. Liam never had controlling shares. Look at the real documents. The envelope also contained a certified copy of Dad's original will, the one Liam said had been destroyed. A detailed breakdown showing how Liam manipulated proxy votes after Dad's passing. And a spreadsheet tracing siphoned funds to 3 fake consulting firms, all tied to Liam's personal accounts. The next day, Harold called a private board session. Liam wasn't invited. Meanwhile, I made my final move inside. I sent an all-staff meeting invite, from my email. Subject line: Blake Industries emergency, internal audit disclosure. Every department head showed up. Even Madison. She looked nervous. I walked into the boardroom at exactly 9 a.m. Closed the blinds. Plugged in the flash drive. The presentation had no fluff. Just facts. And documents. Proof of executive-level payroll theft. A breakdown of vendor kickbacks. Screenshots of Liam's Slack messages bragging about making the company bleed quietly. And finally, A photo of Liam's signature on a false expense authorization dated the same week Dad was in the ICU. "This man didn't just betray your trust," I said, voice calm. "He buried our legacy under his ego." Gasps. One person stood up and left the room in tears. By noon, the board held a vote. Liam was removed as CEO by a 7-2 margin. The news broke across 3 major business outlets before he even left the building. I saw him in the parking lot. No guards. No staff. Just Liam. And a box full of things that were never his. He looked at me. "I built this." I smiled. "No, Liam. You stole it. I just repossessed it." But I didn't stop there. Using the fraud investigation my accountant compiled, I worked with federal authorities. 2 weeks later, Liam was arrested for embezzlement, tax evasion, and corporate misconduct. At the bail hearing, the judge read my name as the whistleblower. He looked over at me and said, "Thank you for preserving your father's legacy. You saved hundreds of jobs." The company was mine now. But I didn't take back the title of CEO. I gave it to Jenna, the engineer Liam had humiliated and fired 2 years ago. I remained in the background, just like before, but this time by choice, not force. And Liam? He wasn't even a cautionary tale. He was a footnote. Some truths live in shadows. Others deserve stadium lights and surround sound. Today? I brought the spotlight. I scheduled the press conference at 10 a.m., on the steps of Blake Industries headquarters, the same place Liam had once unveiled a new logo with fireworks and jazz music. No banners today. Just truth. Cold. Undeniable. Documented. Every major news outlet was there. The rumors were already spreading. CEO removed in sudden shakeup. Whistleblower from inside the Blake family. Federal charges filed against tech prodigy. But no one knew the full story. Not yet. I stepped up to the podium wearing my father's cufflinks. Not a designer suit. Not styled hair. Just quiet confidence and a folder full of facts. 3 years ago, my father, Charles Blake, passed away under suspicious circumstances. And what followed was a silent coup. My younger brother, Liam Blake, seized control of this company by forging proxy rights, hiding my father's original will, and rerouting millions into shell companies. I held up a document, Dad's real will. Cameras clicked like machine guns. This will, which he claimed was lost, clearly states equal ownership. But that wasn't enough for Liam. He didn't want to share. He wanted it all. So he buried me. Not literally, but professionally, financially, reputationally. But facts are stubborn things. I showed the timeline. I showed the paper trail. Emails, wire transfers, Slack chats, all laced with greed, arrogance, and betrayal. He made me his assistant while stealing from the people who built this place. He paraded my ex-fiancée like a trophy while getting employee pensions. He sold the soul of this company to fund his ego. The crowd was silent. Until I said one last thing. This is not a story of revenge. This is a story of accountability. Of rebuilding. And of remembering the kind of man my father was. The Blake name meant something once. Starting today, it will again. That afternoon, the footage aired nationwide. The hashtag Blake Reborn trended for 48 hours straight. Liam's lawyers went into crisis mode. Madison? She posted a note about being misled and manipulated, a poor attempt to save face. Too late. Because this wasn't just a takedown. It was a restoration. And it was only just beginning. Victory doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like silence. An eerie quiet after the roar. When everyone realizes what's been lost, and what's left behind. In the days following the press conference, everything moved fast. Liam? Denied bail after the second round of charges were filed, this time tied to investor fraud. His attorneys scrambled to cut a deal, but the feds had more than enough. The court froze his accounts, seized his assets, and raided his luxury condo in Miami. His face, once splashed across tech magazines, now plastered on headlines next to the word fraud. Madison? She vanished. Her social media accounts were wiped clean. But an anonymous source leaked private texts between her and Liam, messages mocking my demotion, calling me the backup son and barely employable. That was the final nail in her PR coffin. Her influencer deals? Gone. Book deal? Cancelled. Brand? Burned to ash. The company? Blake Industries didn't collapse. It evolved. Jenna took over as CEO and reinstated everyone Liam had discarded. Departments that had been gutted were rebuilt. Bonuses were restored. Transparency policies were put in place. Employees no longer walked on eggshells. They walked tall. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because the emails started rolling in, hundreds of them. Former employees. Vendors. Old clients. People who'd been bullied, scammed, or discarded by Liam. They shared their stories. Each more brutal than the last. And they all ended the same way. Thank you. I thought no one would ever believe me. I read every message. And I replied to each one with the same 3 words. I believe you. Then came the phone call. Blocked number. I hesitated. But answered. You proved your father right. It was Harold Keyes, the board member who'd helped orchestrate Liam's takedown behind the scenes. Charles always said if the company ever fell, you'd be the one to rebuild it. There was a pause. Now it's yours, officially. The trust finalized it this morning. I sat in the quiet of my small apartment, same one I'd retreated to after Liam made me his assistant. Except now. I held everything. Control. The name. The power. But also the responsibility. And I knew one thing. This time, we wouldn't build on secrets. We'd build on truth. Most people think legacy is what you leave behind. They're wrong. Legacy is what you live, every day, with every choice, every silence you break, and every wrong you make right. Today, I wasn't preserving my father's name. I was redefining it. The first order of business was simple. Strip the rot. We publicly dissolved every shell company Liam created. Auditors combed through years of cooked books. Every crooked contract was terminated. Every hush money payout exposed. We even paid back vendors who had been quietly overcharged under Liam's reign. For every dollar stolen, I told the accounting team. We returned to, in principle. Next, I called for something Liam would have laughed at. An employee town hall. Hundreds showed up, engineers, janitors, assistants, partners. I walked on stage with no slides, no buzzwords. Just truth. This company was never meant to be a kingdom, ruled by a last name. It was supposed to be a beacon, for innovation, for integrity, for building something that lasts. And starting today, that's what we return to. Then, I did something unexpected. I resigned as executive chairman. Gasps rippled through the room. But I didn't flinch. I handed the title to Jenna, and named 2 former interns, now rising stars, to the new innovation board. Power is safest when it's shared, I said. This legacy isn't mine alone. It's ours. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I took a portion of my stock payout and launched a new foundation, The Blake Initiative. Its mission? Whistleblower legal aid. Startup incubators for underrepresented founders. Corporate ethics training nationwide. I even reached out to a few of Liam's former victims, the quiet ones who never got closure, and gave them seats on the advisory board. Reporters called it a PR masterpiece. Some called it rebranding. But they were all wrong. This wasn't PR. This was penance. This was purpose. This was what Dad actually wanted. On the anniversary of Dad's passing, I stood alone in front of his grave. No flowers. No press. Just me. They tried to turn your name into a weapon, I whispered. I turned it into a shield. A breeze passed through the trees above. I smiled. Because for the first time in years, I knew who I was. And I knew what I'd built. Not a company. Not an empire. A legacy, reforged by fire, but unshakable. The building was quiet now. No more barking executives. No whispered meetings. No guards posted outside Liam's gold-plated office. Just me. And a box of keys. I'd come back to HQ one last time. Not as a leader. Not as a Blake. Just as a man ready to say goodbye. It was a symbolic act, one I'd planned down to the second. I walked into the executive suite. The same corner office Liam once sat in while he humiliated me in front of the board. The room where he reduced me to an assistant in a company built from my father's blood, my ideas, and my backbone. Now it was stripped bare. Except for one thing. The burned folder. It was an old-school leather binder Dad kept in a locked drawer. I'd found it after the board handed me full access. Inside? Letters he wrote to Liam and me over the years but never sent. His original vision for the company, handwritten on a napkin. Notes about his doubts. His regrets. His fears that Liam lacked empathy. And that I might not fight hard enough. One of you will inherit the company. The other will inherit the cost of watching it fall. I closed the folder. And knew which son I'd become. Downstairs, a final event was already underway. We were donating Blake HQ, the whole building, to a nonprofit tech accelerator for low-income founders. I stepped out onto the sidewalk, past a group of journalists waiting for a soundbite. But I didn't stop for them. I stopped in front of Liam's old parking space. Still engraved with his name. I took out a crowbar. And I ripped it off the pavement. People gasped. I dropped the plate into the trash. Looked straight into the nearest camera and said, "Legacy isn't a name on concrete. It's the fire that keeps you going after they try to bury you. The Blake name ends with me. But the mission, that lives on." That night, as the sun set behind the skyline, I stood in front of the building one last time. In my hand? A match. I didn't burn the office. But I did burn Liam's vision. All his fake awards, the oversized portraits, the plagiarized inspiration quotes he framed. I fed them into a steel barrel on the back loading dock. And lit the match. The fire rose fast. A decade of ego reduced to embers. As the flames crackled, Jenna walked up beside me, handing me a cup of coffee. "Closure?" she asked. I nodded. "Not just closure," I said. "Rebirth." We stood there in silence. No more shouting. No more shadows. Just firelight. And freedom.